Good afternoon. A curious thing occurred to me some time ago, and I was passing it over in my mind and realizing it connected somewhat to my pets are pointless argument, because that was just a really an opening, I suppose. I think you can say a lot more about our relationship with animals. I don't want a smart meter. There's quite a drive in the UK to install smart meters in everybody's house, and I don't think they're particularly desirable or healthy. And so I have thanked people for the offer, but have declined. And as far as I know, currently it cannot be enforced because they would have to force entry into your home, and that would not be lawful. So the electricity company often sends me reminders. Good news, there are our smart meter team is in your area. Phone now. And I get phone calls from them from time to time, although they perhaps slowed down a bit because I'm always quite adamant in my insistence that I don't want it. If it becomes obligatory, then I shall have to give in. But at the moment, I stand on my right as a free man, I suppose, not to have that technology. And a meter reader came to my house. Oh, it would have been several months ago now. And because although I give my readings based on my own honesty, as it were, I suppose they come periodically to make sure that that honesty is, in fact, all it should be. I think that's what it is, and it seems reasonable to me that they might want to do that. I suppose that's a cost to them that they want to eliminate. I don't understand the cost mechanism behind these decisions. It wouldn't surprise me if it's cost driven, but there may be more nefarious aspects to the installation of smart meters in people's homes, as conspiracy theorists sometimes claim. I'm certainly not ruling them out. And so the meter reader that came to my home was rather an unusual fellow, and he seemed keen to chat to me, and I'm always happy to chat. So he didn't come inside the house. He's in the passageway outside, but still on my property, as it were. The water meter and the electricity meter are on the outside of the house, but as I say, the property is still private. And he read the meters and he was chatting, and he explained to me that he was a special services operative who was now retired. He wasn't a very old man, but he said he had been working in a very elite branch of the special services, and he took occasion to point out to me that he owned a wolf, or I think possibly even two wolves, I can't remember, but certainly a wolf. And he explained to me, I was kind of interested to hear about all this. He explained to me that it was only because he was ex special services that he could actually own a wolf, because his position meant that he had a full firearms license and he could carry a firearm, and you were not allowed to go out with a wolf if you weren't carrying a firearm. And then he carried on describing himself in various ways, and one of the expressions he used was that he was a killing machine. I'd started to become a little bit uncomfortable at the direction the conversation had taken. I was interested in the wolves, but I didn't particularly want to have somebody who considered themselves to be a killing machine on my property. And I think I could have probably made a complaint. I don't know. It didn't seem to be very appropriate behaviour, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt that he was just a talkative man who, perhaps has had a very difficult life, and the special services, I'm sure, they can have a high impact on our development. I don't think you can leave an elite force like that, but I'm a little bit skeptical that that's one of those things you can ever leave, because then you become privy, you see, don't you, to, I suppose, things that might be considered secret. And I think it would be hard to leave it completely behind, but maybe I'm wrong. And it occurred to me later that one way of discouraging customers from having their meter read is to send a gentleman like that around to their house, who did have a slightly menacing air. Although I fear no man. I know that I'm protected by the hand of God. But I felt uncomfortable to have him, some of the things that he was saying. And I was meditating on the matter, and why would one want to own a wolf? I looked into it, and the claims that he made, I could find no evidence of the fact that one can own a wolf if one has a firearms license and a license to carry. I didn't even know that such things existed in England, and I think he might have been spinning a bit of a yarn, or perhaps he was an active special services officer involved in some kind of operation that might have involved me also. I don't know. I can't fathom those things. There's no point in really worrying about them. But I couldn't find any confirmation. You can own a wolf in this country, but it has to be, I think, a third degree removed from the wild animal. I don't know what process or what calculations they make. I don't think you can privately own a sort of a first generation wild wolf. I think that might be illegal. Apparently, they're wild animals and potentially extremely dangerous. He explained to me that they'll kill you by causing your neck to whip by dragging down suddenly on an arm. Apparently, I didn't know about this. Whether it sounded a little bit odd that he would have to tell me that just to read my gas meter and my electric meter, but he felt compelled to speak. Perhaps he'd been ordered to speak, and perhaps this was I could see that maybe as a warning. I don't know. I'm only saying things that many other people say, but we are in. I suppose there's always going to be enmity between the followers of Christ and the world. In some measure, it has been so since the ancient times. Of course, Rome was responsible for putting to death, I think, about 1.5 million Christian believers in 70 AD, and I suppose the number of believers at that time wouldn't have been so high, so it was a near genocide, I think. So really today we are very blessed because the opposition that we face, some people might get, how do they say it, knocked off. I don't know how they operate. I think it's unlikely. I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of theatre woven into these things. And these are stories that could play quite well over a TV drama, perhaps. We'd have to introduce a young lady at some point, and I think I'd have to get a faster car than the one that I currently drive, but I'm sure that could be arranged. But so I thought to myself, well, why should somebody want to keep a wolf? It's a rather odd thing, and what happens, I think, is when people keep animals, or we keep animals, and really form a bond with them and a relationship with the animal. And the problem is that the spiritual energy can flow from the animal into the keeper. There is an animal spirit, and I don't think anywhere in the Bible we're instructed to form kinds of emotional bonds with animals, and people do it all the time without having a wolf, of course, just with ordinary dogs and cats. And they form an emotional bond with the creature, what they consider to be an emotional bond, which I think is more a question of mirroring and projection. I don't think it's a real emotional bond because, of course, as far as I can understand, animals don't experience emotions in the way that we do. We have to somehow make them semi-human to achieve that conceit. But when we do that, we open ourselves to the ingress of spiritual energy, and this is an animal spirit energy. I think we should treat animals well and kindly. I think that's fairly clear from the Bible. But when you look at dogs in the Bible, they're never doing anything particularly good, are they? We have the idea now that a dog is a man's best friend. Well, I mean, they are very loyal sometimes, and I'm not denying that. But there is a spiritual aspect to it that we need to be wary of, I think, in keeping pets. And really, in the olden days, I don't think that was the case. I spoke to a gentleman in Italy when I lived up in the mountains, and he was a sort of a local smallholder, I think, and he was telling me that he had a black and white pig, a sort of a miniature breed that he'd bought that year, and that his daughter had made such a pet of it. And I said to him that it was sad, really, and he didn't understand what I meant. And then I realized that for him it was so natural that, I mean, of course he's going to have the animal slaughtered. You don't keep a pig for a year or so and then just carry on feeding it. It was there to feed, to make salami, to make meat for the table. And he was, he didn't seem to see any disconnect, I suppose, with the feeling between the animal and his daughter and the ultimate fate of the animal. And I was reminded of the story that is related by the prophet Nathaniel to David about a man who has a sheep, a single sheep, and that the sheep has become, that his daughter was very affectionate with the sheep, as it were. You could see that passage as supporting pets. But really, the sheep, you don't keep a sheep or a pig or a cow just to stare into its eyes. You keep it for the table, and I think that's proper and right. I think anything that's beyond, animals have a function, and that's good, but if we use them to somehow project our emotions and our feelings and our intent, then we're entering a realm that isn't, I think, our own and is potentially dangerous. God bless.